Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo. Bo Willette's my name. Bo Willette, very French name. And hope you guys are doing good. Merry Christmas, right? December 23rd. You know, what is it going to be? 80 degrees out here? Merry Christmas, right? We're all going to watch, what is it, that old movie, right? With, what is it, Bing Crosby? Dreaming of a white Christmas, and it's not going to be anything close to a white Christmas out here. No, ski season is not in sight over here in Tucson. And you don't really think of ski season in Tucson anyway, but we do have the most southern ski slope in the United States. And it is some really fun skiing up there. But anyway, hope you guys are doing well today. And you guys are ready for Daniel chapter 8. Maybe you got family and friends in town, which is awesome. And hopefully you guys are getting ready to kind of enjoy the holiday time. I'm having one cookie a day. That's it. I've kind of limited myself. One cookie a day. So I don't know what you guys got going on, but that's what I'm kind of trying to stay kind of keep a limit on me. It's easy during the holidays to kind of, get a little squirrely, right? with a diet. And, anyway, I was trying to get on our Calvary Christian Fellowship page and see if everything's going on live okay. And, all that jazz. So let's see. Let's look at it. See if we're doing good. You could always check out the archives at my YouTube channel at Bo Willette. And so what you need to do is just go to youtube.com and then in the search bar, type in Bo Willette, BeauLellette, and you should be good to go. So it's right there, Bo, BeauLellette, and we'll be rocking and rolling. So I do these devotions Monday through Friday, and they're pretty cool, man. I get to go through the Bible, so I'm pretty stoked at that. Anyway, let me get in here. Let's see, Paula. Okay, we're going to be ready to go. So let's do this. Okay, so Daniel chapter 8. That's what we're going to do in our devotion today. And I'm going to do a quick test to see how my arm's doing. That's all I can do still. So I'm trying to lift my arm up more, but it's pretty hard. Anyway, I'm getting it up there a little bit, but after breaking your scapula and a bunch of ribs, 7 ribs, it's a little difficult. So let's get into it. Daniel 8. It says, during the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, saw another vision. So Daniel's a dude that has a ton of visions. It's just something that's kind of, gifted to him. And it kind of reminds me that there might be some people that I meet in my world that are a little more kind of prone or tuned in to maybe a spiritual side that I'm just not quite aware of. Not everybody has kind of these kind of spiritual kind of awakenings, these kind of spiritual gifts. And some people do have them. And the Bible kind of expresses that. Daniel was one of these guys. But he was, in a sense, in politics, in Babylonian politics. He was in the government. And it says he saw another vision following the one that had already appeared to him. And in this vision, I was at the fortress of Susa in the province of Elam, standing beside the Ulai River. One thing about Daniel's visions is that they are super, super specific about different kingdoms that are going to come after the time of Babylon. And that seems to be the theme of Daniel's visions. Now, it's interesting that Daniel was part of the dispersion, if you will, of the Jews out of Jerusalem, those from Judea, the southern parts of Israel, during the Babylonian, if you will, reign and empire, that dominating empire. And their king was King Nebuchadnezzar. And Daniel's visions that he seems to have a consistent flow of these different empires that would dominate the region, meaning the area of the Middle East. And they're focused on that. And there's a reason why, is because the theme of the visions really is about Israel. That's really the theme of the visions at all, is just Israel. What's going to happen to Israel? You know, it's kind of like when your place is destroyed. You know, I was in the Northridge earthquake back in 1994 in Northridge, California. And when the federal emergency, what is it, medical whatever, comes in and condemns your building, and you're not going to be living there anymore, there's always the question of what now? Like, what's going to happen now in life? Maybe you're at that stage right now where you're kind of wondering the what ifs, what now? What do I do? Kind of thing in life. Well, Daniel was in that quite a bit. What now? I mean, we're taken, captive. We're being moved out of our homeland into the land of Babylon. And these visions that he has tend to kind of answer some of those questions in the sense of, well, this is what's going to happen to Israel. And some of them we've seen have already talked about the latter days, times that are way in the future. So Daniel is really a remarkable book, and that it's really talking about these different empires that would come on the scene in the last days. And that might not matter much to you, but a kid like me growing up in California listening to Iron Maiden, looking at their cover, Number of the Beast, and you're like, the end of the world's coming and the AntiChrist or some Satan looking characters on the scene. And I mean, listening to Metallica and listening to those bands that had these themes in it of good and evil. And you know what I'm talking about. Even today, there's themes of good and evil all over the place. Well, that's what these visions kind of were about, is, a lot of evil is going to happen until things are made right. Man, and that sometimes can be a tough pill to swallow. A lot of times we have to trust God because things just aren't going to get better. It might seem that way. We might go through some good times, but overall, things are winding down. Things keep getting corrupted. Now, you might think, oh, well, Bo, that's such a negative view, that the Bible gives. Well, look at your body. I mean, just look at science. I mean, just look out in the world. What's everything doing? It's all slowly decaying. Even you too. So, it's the reality. And the Bible paints that picture of that reality, of that things are decaying, things are getting, slowly worse. So he looks up and he sees a ram with 2 horns standing beside the river. One of the horns was longer than the other, even though it had grown later than the other one. The ram butted everything out of its way to the west, to the north, to the south. No one could stand against him or help his victims. He did as he pleased and became very great. Okay, so we see this ram with 2 long horns, and it says one of these horns was a little longer than the other. And then he says, while I was watching, suddenly a male goat appeared from the west, crossing the land so swiftly that he didn't even touch the ground, man. He was just super quick, fast, really fast, like he was flying. Have you ever said something like that? Like, man, that person's flying, right? And that's what we mean by that, is that person isn't literally flying, but what we're saying is that person is quick. And it says, he didn't even touch the ground. This goat, which had one very large horn between its eyes, headed toward the 2-horned ram that I had seen standing beside the river, rushing at him in a rage. The goat charged furiously at the ram and struck him, breaking off both his horns. Now the ram was helpless, and the goat knocked him down and trampled him. No one could rescue the ram from the goat's power. So this goat is super strong. Big giant horn, and just as quick as ever is just going at this other ram with the two long horns, one a little bigger than the other. And it says the goat became powerful, but at the height of his power, his large horn was broken off. In the large horn's place grew 4 prominent horns pointing in the 4 directions of the earth. Then from one of the prominent horns came a small horn whose power grew very great. It extended toward the south and the east and toward the glorious land of Israel. Its power reached to the heavens, where it attacked the heavenly army, throwing some of the heavenly beings and some of the stars to the ground and trampling them. It even challenged the commander of heaven's army by canceling the daily sacrifices offered to him and by destroying his temple. The army of heaven was restrained from responding to this rebellion, so the daily sacrifice was halted and truth was overthrown. The horn succeeded in everything it did. Wow. I mean, this broken off horn, then these other horns grow. One of them becomes powerful and really seems to be against the Jewish people and the Jewish religion and this whole deal, the culture, everything about it. And there's a very kind of sinister evilness about this person that's being described here. And it says, then I heard 2 holy ones talking to each other. One of them asked, how long will this event or these events of the vision last? How long will the rebellion that causes desecration stop the daily sacrifices? How long will the temple and heaven's army be trampled? The others replied, it will take 2,300 evening and mornings, then the temple will be made right again. Again, really specific vision, right? It's not some like, man, this is going to happen. There's going to be a big earthquake one day, and it's going to really be big. And, people are going to really suffer. You say something like that, and everybody goes, well, yeah. But anybody could say that. This is getting really interesting. You got one goat with 2 horns, one bigger than the other. Another goat with one giant horn that seems to be super swift in its domineering power, and it takes out the goat with the 2 horns. And then this goat with the big horn, the one big one, it breaks in 4. It says, 4 prominent horns pointing in 4 different directions of the earth. And then the one that points towards, it seems, the Israel area. Again, that's the context of Daniel's visions, is really Israel. What is going to happen to Israel? Israel has been in Babylon for a long time. Is Israel ever going to get back? Well, this passage tells us that there's going to be these sacrifices once again, that Israel will be sacrificing, but they will be stopped once again. Could you imagine how heartbreaking this must be? It seems like the turmoil with Israel just will not stop. It'll just keep going and going and going. Man, it's got to be tough. We're going to see how Daniel responds in a minute. And so it says, these things are going to take 2,300 evening and mornings, and the temple will be made right again. There'll be a time before the temple is finally made good. And then it says, as I, Daniel, was trying to understand the meaning of the vision, someone who looked like a man stood in front of me, and I heard a human voice calling out from the Ulai River, Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of his vision. Kind of interesting. Gabriel, that kind of angelic being, that kind of messenger of God. So here's Gabriel on the scene. And it says, as Gabriel approached the place where I was standing, I became so terrified that I fell with my face to the ground. Son of man, he said, you must understand what these events you have seen in your vision relate to the times of the end. Okay, so the vision relates to the times of the end again, and that is specified. And the end of what? We're not quite sure yet. We're going to have to kind of keep going. But it seems like there's going to be it's kind of reaching somewhere out there, not so near to the time of Daniel, but somewhere out there. Notice Daniel is freaking out. when Gabriel's on the scene, it doesn't seem like those kind of Christmas kind of, hey, there's Gabriel, and there's Michael the archangel, and there's Gabriel, and there's baby Jesus. And, you get the idea that sometimes we have sanitized a lot of how the Bible describes these different people and different characters. Gabriel is on the scene, and it says he became so terrified. Now, this is Daniel of all people, and Daniel's a pretty on-point religious person. And yet when he sees Gabriel, what does he do? He falls his face to the ground. So he is absolutely blown away. And it says, while he was speaking, I fainted and lay there with my face to the ground. He fainted. It was, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you were so scared, so just in a sense terrified by what you saw, so blown away that you literally fainted. I've done a lot of weddings in my day, and I remember one of the first ones where someone locked their knees and took a bail, and fell over. And sometimes you can do that if you're standing and it's a kind of a serious situation, and you might be nervous and you lock your knees. You could kind of fall, right, and tip over. And sometimes animals do that too. It's kind of cute to watch them. And but could you imagine being so scared where you literally just hit the ground or you faint? It's that crazy. So it says he's to the ground, but Gabriel roused me with a touch and helped me to my feet. And then he said, I am here to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath. Not a good time. That's already scary. I mean, what if Gabe said that to you? Hey, there's going to be a time of wrath that you're going to have to endure. Sometimes we're going to have to get, be okay, I got to say, with different times and different seasons of life. If there's anything going through the book of Ecclesiastes showed us, it was just that there's a time to laugh and there is a time to cry. There is times for everything. There are seasons for everything. And certainly so, there's times even where there's wrath on a nation, in a family, in your heart, in your mind, where you're going to have to work through that. And we all know that. Today's a day where I'm going to have to work through things. And you're going to have to just come to that understanding in life. Everybody's doing it, by the way. There's nobody on the planet that doesn't need fixing, that doesn't need repair work, restoration, rehabilitation. We all do. You're not unique in that way. We all are sinners. We all are the sick, Jesus said, in need of a Savior, in need of healing. So, hey, you can kind of, not be too scared at that message of, hey, guess what? It's a time of wrath. Because guess what? We all know we're going to go through different times and seasons on the planet. And so it's a time of wrath this vision is about. And it says, what you have seen pertains to the very end of time. The two-horned ram represents the kings of Media and Persia. Okay, so we're getting an interpretation, not from Daniel, who seems to be a prominent interpreter of visions in the book of Daniel, but instead, Daniel has the vision and Gabriel comes to interpret. And Gabriel's interpretation is, of course, very cool and spot on. The first goat is the Medo-Persian Empire. That's how specific the biblical prophecies get. They tell you who exactly is being referred to. So it shouldn't be odd or hard to read. It's just you got to read it. And when you read it, you kind of start going, oh, I get it. Now, me being a Southern California guy, just the normal kid, bike riding, skateboarding, smoking some weed, blah, 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 growing up in bands, having fun, just the normal Southern California kid, going to parties, whatever. I never grew up with the Bible, but when I started reading the Bible, I read the Old Testament, and it wasn't that hard. When people tell me the Bible's hard to understand, or the book of Daniel's hard to understand, or these books are hard to understand, I really got to question them. Are you really reading it with like a mind to comprehend what you're reading? Or are you just kind of skimming over it, or just kind of, I don't want to hear it, or whatever. Because even me at 17 years old, the reggae guy, a guy who loves reggae and who, listens to a guy like Bob Marley talk about Jesus and goes, man, I'm interested in the Bible. He's into the Bible. Maybe I'll read the Bible, and you get into the Bible, you start reading the Bible and you start going, man, this starts making sense. I understand it. The horns are representative of the empires. In these power structures. It could be people, it could be empires, but here we see the first goat has two horns, and it's the Medo-Persian Empire. So an empire that literally has two people groups in it. This was the empire that conquered Babylon in history. And so it says the shaggy male goat represents the king of Greece. Okay. Well, who is the king of Greece? Oh, you might know this guy, Alexander the Great. And it says the shaggy male goat was the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes represents the first king of the Greek Empire. Okay. And it says the four prominent horns that replaced the one large horn showed that the Greek Empire will break into four kingdoms, but none as great as the first. Okay, so we can just think that in history, we can look back and go, hey, did the Grecian Empire after Alexander the Great died break off into four parts? Four, if you will, rulers. And you can go into that and look for yourself. And one of them, it seems, becomes dominant. At the end of their rule, when their sin is at their height, a fierce king, a master of intrigue, will rise to power. So one will become really powerful out of these four, and he will become very strong, but not for his own power. He will cause a shocking amount of destruction and succeed in everything he does. He will destroy powerful leaders and devastate the holy people. Okay, the holy people are, that is Israel. That's what it's speaking of. So, don't be upset when we say, oh, God's people. This kind of idea where we get those ideas of Israel being God's people is from the scriptures themselves. They are called the holy people and the people of the covenant. And so, and they're talked about as being precious in Yahweh's eyes. We've kind of talked about that before when we went over the 10 Commandments. But it says that this guy will become very strong, but not by his own power. I wonder if he'll be possessed, right? And he'll have this destruction of Israel in mind, of the people. And it says, and he will be a master of deception and will become arrogant. He will destroy many without warning. He will even take on the prince of princes in battle, but he will be broken, though not by human power. There will be a supernatural defeating of this interesting person who is very strong, but not by his own power. So this is where I think of like the Iron Maiden cover, Number of the Beast, where you have Satan and then you have this beast. And it's like, who's controlling who, right? Someone's being controlled. And that's what I mean by possession, right? And those themes, again, are threaded throughout so much music and literature of all kinds, in not just our country, but all over the globe. Good, evil, someone being ruled by a force that's not good at all. And here you see this person being ruled by this force and is really taken to going after Israel and hating Israel, tearing Israel apart. And it says that this person will be defeated and will take on the prince of princes. Meaning, it sounds like this is talking about maybe God's Messiah that's been spoken of all throughout the Old Testament already. That maybe this person will be so, if you will, jacked and so warped that they will literally take on God's Messiah. And, it's interesting. Jesus speaks in some speaks in some ways that you kind of listen to Jesus and you go, man, Jesus, that's crazy. Like, whoa. Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like what? Lightning. Wow. Like, man. Like, what did you just say? You saw who? Jesus really believed in the devil. And, that's a question that a lot of people have. Well, I don't really believe in the devil. And let us face it, man. I don't want to, the devil doesn't sound fun at all. That doesn't sound great, even though sometimes in my twisted, warped upbringing, I would kind of, think, oh, the devil's so cool. And sometimes we do that when we're, younger and we're rebellious, that kind of thing. But a lot of people go, no, I'm just going to believe in something that doesn't have the devil. And you know what? You can do that, but you just got to remember that's something you're making up in your brain. It doesn't mean it's true. It's just something you're making up. You can call it being spiritual. You can call it being whatever, but it's just something you make up in your brain. If Jesus is your authority on truth, Jesus taught that there is a devil. There is a literal devil. Pretty radical. Jesus said to religious people of his day, you are of your father, the devil. He said that to the religious people. That's pretty radical. He said to all people, if you being evil know how to give good gifts to your kids, how much more will your heavenly Father give you the Holy Spirit to him who asks? Man, what a bizarre statement. Me, evil? You of your father, the devil? Jesus really taught this. And again, that statement, I saw Satan fall, like lightning, that's radical. And here you have this idea of this, in a sense, battle between the prince on the planet, the prince of princes, the one who is God's Messiah, God's anointed, in battle with this person. Interesting, right? So even though we're talking about this person that's part of the Greece structure, it seems like we're being teleported even to the latter days, to the end times, where we see this person who's a type of Antichrist. Really interesting. You see in this prophetic literature these kind of types that are spoken of. And this is kind of the type of literature that apocalyptic literature kind of reveals. It kind of shows. It's the way it's written. It's revealing a actual historical person. But then it also is showing that person to be a type of someone that's coming after. So there's a person that's really there in history that's going to be on the earth, but their character, the qualities about them, resemble a type of Antichrist. You might think of Hitler like that too. Adolf Hitler, very bent, right, on killing a lot of Jewish people. Had his own twisted thoughts about that. But notice behind it is this evil kind of possession, right? This evil kind of taking over of there's this power that's greater that hates the Jewish people. So very interesting, especially in our day and age where you have college students on campus that don't even know what they're doing. They're chanting genocidal statements against Israel. Where's that coming from? What power is behind that? Especially when you ask college students and they don't even know what they're saying. They don't understand what they're saying. And you tell them you're talking about genocidal actions against a people group. They're, no, I'm against racism. You're against racism? Listen to what you're doing on the college campus. I have no doubt that college campus is the greatest place of quagmires and contradictions. It is just the most interesting culture of them all, right? It shows beyond a doubt that we are lost and lost in a great way. As human beings, we are very fickle and we flop all over the place. right? We are very much moved by dictators and masters and professors in massive amounts, massive ways. So it says at the end of this that the vision is about 2,300 evenings and mornings is true, but none of these things will happen for a long time, so keep this vision in a secret. So the 2,300 evenings and mornings seem to be something about something in the future. It says, then I, like in the far future, then I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for several days. Afterward, I got up and performed my duties for the king, but I was greatly troubled by the vision and could not understand it. Okay, so Daniel gets a vision of the future couple kingdoms and particularly one person that is going to come from the government of Greece after Alexander the Great, and how this person typifies what we know as the Antichrist, kind of the last, if you will, massive ruler, hater against Israel that will go after Israel once again. And so Daniel is bummed, obviously, because he knows that his people are going to go through an incredible time of wrath. And that's what it's called. And if you read the book of Revelation, that's a time of what? Wrath. And you see that the book of Revelation is really a opening up, if you will, of what Daniel's seeing here. It's a revealing. That's why it's called the book of Revelation. It means revealing. And it's really an opening up of this latter part of the vision of this person who's empowered with a superpower, like a possessed power, and has and its result of the possession is a strong hatred against Israel, to see her destroyed and her worship destroyed and her God destroyed, this kind of thing. And so that's what this is about. Now, I think one of the things I just take kind of with me in my devotion this morning is that Daniel was a person who, when getting this, became overcome with sickness. That's what it says, for several days. And it says that even when he felt better and he resumed his duties in government, he was troubled by this vision. And I got to imagine that, Daniel wasn't wrong. And this is what I mean by that. Sometimes we tend to think like everything's got to be happy, happy, happy. And if people aren't happy, 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 then you don't feel good. It's like your day is bummed because someone's going through something. And so you want everybody to be happy, 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 because really not really for their sake, but it really is a manipulative tool because it's for your sake. Because you don't want people to really just go through what they need to go through. You feel better when everybody is doing what you think they should be doing, or they're feeling what you want them to feel at the time. This is how marriages and relationships are destroyed every day. Every day. Where people say, why are you melancholy? Why are you bummed? Why are you so serious? Why is so much weight on your heart? Why can't you just be happy, happy, happy? I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy. And really, it's not, again, you don't really want them to be happy. Really, it's because you just don't feel comfortable around someone who's melancholy. But there's many, 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 many people that's their temperament. They tend to be on the melancholy side, meaning they're more depressed, meaning they things weigh on them. Emotions weigh heavy on their heart. Things in the news weigh heavy on their heart. They can't just brush it off. It tends to hit them and they think about it and it kind of weighs in them. And it's not that they're not talking to God. Daniel was a dude who talked to God. I mean, he was a guy who hung out with Gabriel. I mean, talk about close to God, right? He's hanging out with a messenger of God. And yet he's sick for several days. And even when he gets back to work, he is troubled by the vision. It bothers him. He doesn't understand it. He seems, in a sense, and you go, oh, well, God's not the author of confusion. You know, those kind of things that we say, those quoting of the Bible passages, just, you know, sometimes we don't know what we're doing. Daniel wasn't wrong to not understand everything about his vision. It's not that God was the author of confusion. I think God was really clear to bring Gabriel to Daniel, to give him the interpretation of the vision. But it doesn't mean, even with that interpretation, that Daniel is not troubled by it. So let's not confuse Daniel's being troubled with somehow God, you know, being the author of confusion. And this obviously was, no. You know, it's okay to be troubled when we see what goes on in this world. It's okay for people to have a burdened heart by the manipulation of companies and the overreach of government and the way companies act and the way they charge massive amounts of money or charge people with having to pay massive amounts of money for things that shouldn't cost that much, but they do. Price gouging, making people poor, so much killing and hurt and oppression goes on in our world on a daily basis. It's absolutely overwhelming. And if you're dealing with things of wrath and destruction and despair, there should be some troubling, I would imagine, that you feel. Some people more than others. And Daniel loved his people. And I hope you love your people. You know, whoever your neighbors are, you know, where you live. You know, to us, that's our people, right? People that we're around a lot. And I hope you care for them to where if you knew of something that was going to happen, I mean, even though it was in the future, but you knew that they were going to go through it, that there would be a troubled heart. The application is, am I okay with people today having to feel what they have to feel? Am I able to come alongside them and just show compassion and just hold a hand and not try to fix them, not try to make them this happy person, right? To try to give people a happy pill because you want things to be happy. But just let people be people. Daniel had a lot on his mind, and there's a good reason for that. And just maybe, even at the Christmas time, people might have a lot on their mind. And we're just going to have to let them do that. And that's okay. We can love them in it. You know, maybe, just maybe they're going through a lot. So I don't want to manipulate today. You got to let the Daniels be Daniel and go what they need to go through. But wow, what a word, man. Again, if you ever think the Bible's not specific or accurate, maybe think again, right? So have a great day. Have a great Christmas Eve and a great Christmas. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Okay? Bye-bye.